Beautiful song by Sinead Burgess from Division 2 as we speak about it. She's from the Beachmere area. She's gone down south now. She's all signed up with a label and doing some big things. You are listening to 4AUR 101.5 FM. It's 16 minutes past 9. We are with you right through till 11 o'clock. Then Alan Jones will take the microphone and give you a national perspective. Also remember we have a news team out the back working hard producing local news. They bring those bulletins at the top of the hour. As I mentioned a couple of times, we are looking in depth at the Moreton Bay Regional Council Division 2 area leading on into the elections. We will be having those polls on the 28th of April. In the studio, we have with us Darrell Main, Peter Flannery, Ron Anderson and Adam Leishman. They're all contestants for this election. They want to represent you. G'day, gentlemen. How are you?
G'day. How's things?
Oh, look at that. They're all here. They're ready to go. Now, a couple of things. Division 2 is quite unique in the sense that there's no incumbent going into this election. Chris Whiting was the councillor for that area. Still, technically, as far as the legislation goes, is, but will be contesting the mayoralship. So we have, having no incumbent, we have all candidates putting up their hands. They're new, fresh faces to the council regime. We'll start off by getting to know them, and we'll go in the order of the ballot. Darrell Main, first of all. Who are you? Where have you come from? Why have you put your hand up to represent Division 2?
Well, I live in Beachmere and my background is in behavioural science. I've worked alternately over the last 30 years, both in community settings with community groups doing community development, family counselling and community support, family support work. That alternates with working in political offices where I try to get a benefit and a change to the government's position on certain things to help them. Community means a lot to me. That is the basis of my whole life. I love being there, I love being involved. That's why I think now is a good time to step up and to work for my local community, and that's why my motto is putting community first.
Yeah, right, okay. Peter Flannery, why have you put your hand up? You have been a councillor in the past under the old Caboolture Shire Council area. You've taken a break from it. You're back now, you're putting your hand up, you want to represent Division 2. Where have you come from? Who are you? And why have you put your hand up this time round?
Yeah, Andrew, I first moved to the area in 1996 when I came up to Burpengary and lived there for about 10 years. Then moved over to Beachmere for about 5 years and currently now live in Narangba. My background, I started in local government working for the Brisbane City Council about 1996 and did a few years there, worked with the Caboolture Council before I became a councillor for a few years there. I was a councillor with the Caboolture Council from 2004 to 2008 and I represent Division 5, which is part of Division 2. With the amalgamation, it was all carved up into quarters and allocated to different divisions.
What parts of Division 2 did you represent back then?
Narangba, Burpengary and a little part of Morayfield.
Yep, so sort of the southern part of it.
Yes. They did go further to the western side of the railway line, where the boundary for the Division 2 now is the railway line and the eastern side. Left local government, went and worked in the mines for Central Queensland for about 18 months, 15 months there, flying up and flying back into the real world, and then came back into working for the Moreton Bay Regional Council in 2009 in the operations department and the maintenance of roads and drains.
And what's driven you, you're working as a council employee, what's driven you to put your hand up?
Probably realised that when I did leave council that my passion for the community is still there and that I still want to improve people's lives. So the only way you can really do that is be part of the decision-making process. And working in the council now, I've seen the results of the amalgamation, what things are working, what things aren't working, and I think I can make a difference to improve it.
Ron Anderson, where have you come from? What's your background? Why have you decided to put your hand up at this election?
Mate, I'm from Victoria originally. Down there I motor mechanic by trade and then worked in the transport industry for a long time. I had my own business for 15 years down there and I was senior management and Victorian state management for a couple of major transport companies. From there I moved up to here. My parents retired up to Bribie Island, so came up here and I found this little niche down there at Beachmere, which I fell in love with. Absolutely beautiful place to live. And but the only contest was I've been arguing with the council for the last period of time, and I thought, everyone down there said to me, Ron, stop whinging about it and go out there and do something about it. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm putting my hand up and going out there and having a go.
Are you putting your hand up on a single issue, and what is that single issue?
Not just on a single issue, there's a lot of issues, but my main issue is the flooding and the drainage problems within our whole region, to be honest, and the council's budget for that doesn't even allow the drains to be cleaned, once in every 10 years. So I think you know, we've got to get back to basics and look after our community and make it safe.
Okay, we'll come back and we'll look at the issues in detail later on in the show. Adam Leishman, you've put your hand up. Where have you come from and why have you put your hand up at this point in time?
I've come from right here. I've actually lived here all my life, or pretty much all of it. My family moved here when I was 1 year old, and I've
Do you remember that move?
Not at all.
Okay.
I was actually born at Ipswich, and we moved here when I was 1. I now have a young family, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old that I'm now raising here. And look, I'm not only have I lived here all my life, I think in another 30 or 40 years I get to probably say that statement as well. This is the greatest place to live, and my motivation for running is I want to continue to make this the best place to live around.
Okay, terrific. Well, we've now met the candidates. We'll go off to a quick break and then we'll be right back and we'll start looking at the issues that pertain to Division 2 and how the candidates, how they want to attack it and what they're going to put their hand up to do. Sunshine, lollipops and rainbows. You're listening to 4AUR 101.5 FM. It's 26 minutes past 9. We are looking closely at Division 2 of the Moreton Bay Regional Council heading on into the elections. Remember, the 28th of April, it's your democratic right. You get to get in there and decide who is going to represent you in the council. The person that you can ring up day, night, in between and say, hey, this is what I want. In the studio, we have Darrell Main, Peter Flannery, Ron Anderson, Adam Leishman. They've all put their hands up for that job. Well, jump into Peter Flannery. You've been campaigning for quite some time now. What are the issues that you see going into this election?
Yeah, Andrew, I started campaigning, announced my campaign, I suppose, program was in September last year, and done a fair bit of door knocking. And the issues that are coming through loud and clear, and I think a lot of candidates have mentioned at the Meet the Candidates nights, is the general maintenance of the areas, the roads, the drains, the footpaths, the parks. Seems to have been decreased since the amalgamation, and the care and attention's not there coming from council, which then I suppose flows on to give the community pride starts decreasing as well. So that's something that's came through loud and clear that I've been
with that
up.
Lack of maintenance, can you put your finger on why that's happened? Is it because of adverse weather? Is it because of the leadership that's in there now? The councillors don't really consider it as being a high priority? Is it just budgetary constraints? What is it?
It's probably a little bit of everything. We've had like 10 years of drought, and then we have the last 2 years of floods, so it's been a dramatic change in the climate there of what councils had to respond to, and they probably weren't prepared for what came down the rivers that day. So that in hand with trying to amalgamate the 3 councils together, they're trying to cut costs here and there, and I think some places the budgets probably has been cut back where it shouldn't have been, and other places it maybe should be looked at being cut back to keep those basic, because that's council's role is provide basic services to the community, and I think they should do that first and get that priority right first before moving on to other issues.
You put your hand up to be elected, that's the future. You've looked at where it's gone wrong, which is hindsight. What are some of the things that you would have definitely done different over this last 4 years?
As I said to a few people, my focus would have been to get the basic services across all 3 regions equal and equality across the 3 areas, so people are getting the same service no matter where they lived in the old Caboolture, Pine Rivers or Redcliffe areas, and bed that down. And that's going to take a few years to bed that down. I think that should have been done from day one.
Do you think that failed?
Probably not far. They probably haven't done the job as good as they could have, and in hindsight reflecting, I think they'd admit the same thing as well. Okay,
now if you were going to concentrate on those services and bringing them in line with each other, the old areas were the Caboolture area, Redcliffe area and Pine Rivers area. There were some things that different areas had that others didn't have. Would if you've worked on a process of bringing them down to the same level or bringing them all up to the same level, and then actually what's your view on that, and then we'll go from there.
I don't think you should ever reduce services to the community, so whatever the highest standard is across one of those 3 regions, that should be the benchmark that the others 2 come up to. Everybody's paying a similar dollar in the rates, so therefore they should be getting the same kind of services no matter where they live.
So if you're going to do that and you're going to raise the bar everywhere effectively to reach wherever the highest bar was, there's going to be direct cost increases. As far as the budgetary side of things go, there's been a lot of talk about debt increase, albeit some have said that there's been balanced budgets. What would you take away from to make that happen?
It's probably not so much taken away. It's probably just reviewing the expenditure and operating expenditure at the moment the council is spending on. I believe in probably maintaining the roads that you have rather than building new roads when you can't maintain the old ones. So maybe the focus needs just to be shifted a little bit and can be streamlined through various methods.
Ron Anderson, you mentioned that a big issue for you was flooding. What are some of the other issues that you're across now that you've been campaigning? How long have you been campaigning for too?
I've only just started in the, 3 or 4 weeks.
If I can just get you a little bit closer to that microphone. I know you've got a powerful voice there, but the audience wants you loud and clear coming out of those microphones.
I've only started campaigning for the last started campaigning for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I made a decision because I'd been arguing with council over certain issues and not getting answers. You know, for 5 years you can't get a flood plan for certain areas and this sort of thing, and then they'll put a plan in that says, you know, it goes to the back of the footy ground and settles in settling ponds and runs down the creek. The creek's blocked. It's never been cleaned out. I've been there 10 years and it's never been touched in 10 years. So the maintenance at the current time throughout the whole council is just minimal and not there. You know, Pete's talking about these programs and everything else. We wasted 24 million down at the beachfront at Redcliffe. Why didn't we put that into cleaning drains? You know, let's make the place safe before we start beautifying it. You know, these are some of the actions that you'd want to implement.
So you're talking about effectively the infrastructure that's not necessarily seen, put the work and effort into that. What about the argument, say, you know, like Redcliffe and, you know, in Caboolture, the King Street area and Pine Rivers, they've got their main central business district. If you don't instill pride in it and invest in it, then people generally won't come and you won't have that perpetuation of income. Do you think that that's a factor and it still needs to be considered?
Well, if you talk to a lot of people down at Redcliffe, and a lot of them aren't happy with what's been done because there's no parking left there for the shopkeepers to get people there to make any money. So, like, a lot of these things are rushed into and they need a lot more planning. They need to put a lot more effort into and think about what they're actually doing. If people can't park there, how do they get there?
Yeah, okay, so Ron Anderson, having campaigned for such a short period of time, do you feel that you're across the issues to have a platform to successfully get into council and then represent the people right across the Division 2 area?
I've got a very diverse background, and some of the things I've been looking at is in cost savings. You know, like the average council truck gets taken in and gets a new tyre put on it, and they pay the price at Bridgestone or whatever. If the price is $340, they pay it. They don't get any discount. When we were in transport, we knew...
Well, can I just pull you up on that for a second? Do you know that for a fact?
Well, I've asked the question. I even asked how many hours some of the excavators and that do down there. Did they have any reduction in equipment when they did the amalgamation? Is there excavators sitting around that only do 2 hours a week? You can't get this information out of the council at the current time.
Okay, can I put it to you that the Caboolture depot, we have a maintenance depot here, as far as tyres go, because you have brought that up, they do have a contract with Bridgestone. They buy directly from the head office. The Bridgestone here does not get any retail cut out of it. They put it on. Are you saying that you can cut a better deal?
There's always a better deal. Bridgestone and some of those bigger companies are the biggest companies around, and their prices aren't always the best.
Okay, so you're saying that the whole buying policy of the Moreton Bay Regional Council at this point in time needs to be torn apart. You need to look at it and be prepared to shop absolutely anywhere and not worry about tender processes?
It needs to be revised. The whole lot of it needs to be gone through.
Okay, specifically, what are some of the things that you see that you can improve in that area?
Well, like I was just saying, you know, like you've got a lot of capital tied up in equipment. If the equipment's not being used or only doing 2 hours a week, then you're paying a driver to sit around. He only really works for 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week, and we're paying a full wage. We might as well consolidate that and say, all right, well, we only need one excavator and we'll outside hire, which actually gives more work to the community as well, because you're using a contractor outside to fill in for that fallout.
Ron, you've made an allegation there that there is equipment that's owned by the Moreton Bay Regional Council with staff associated with it sitting there idle. Do you have any specific examples of that?
No, I've asked for that information and it's not forthcoming.
You haven't seen it around in your travels?
Oh, I've seen plenty of machinery sitting around the yards not doing anything.
With people standing there doing nothing?
Well, that's just an obvious thing for a council, and that's one thing. It's like your company vehicles and that. You know, there's only X amount of company vehicles that are allocated to senior personnel that are to be used, you know, 24/7. The rest of them are only for foremen to get to work and back, but you still see these vehicles running around on weekends being used for personal use.
Having started your campaign 2 weeks ago, have you spent time engaging with the community and getting feedback from them? And if you have, how many people have you actually got across? 2 weeks is a very short period of time.
Mate, I've done a lot of door knocking, and every sign that I put out, I think about 140 odd signs, I've knocked on those people's doors. And I've actually talked to those people. I've got permission to put my sign on every place that it's on at the current time. And in talking to those people, you know, you get a lot of issues. One is dog catchers. There's a lot of people complaining that there's not enough pound people around at the current time. Footpaths is an issue where people walk along, the trees haven't been trimmed, and they can't walk along the footpath even to get to the shopping centre without having to duck underneath trees. All these are just like small issues, but it's all maintenance that's not being done.
All great. Adam Leishman, how long have you been campaigning for, and what are the issues on your radar?
Well, what is campaigning? Is campaigning being part of community groups and on organisations and attending community events? If that's the case, I've probably been campaigning for many, many years.
Are you saying you're a sleeper? You're stealth? You've been planning on this for how many years, and you've been campaigning?
Look, I just think running for council is probably the natural progression in what I've been doing, you know, for a long time, which is just being part of the community, trying to make my backyard, our backyard, a better place to live. I think some of the issues out there that when I'm talking to people are certainly number one's water, the cost of water. It's a essential utility that has, you know, escalated in price, and I make the pun, it's become a hard to swallow issue. That's certainly number one of the issues that I'm hearing out there.
Okay, well, let's look at that issue. Unity Water was formed during this last term, so going back again to the old Caboolture, Redcliffe and Pine Rivers area, we used to have Cab Water up here. Redcliffe had its own sort of water entity, and so did Pine Rivers. The amalgamation happened. Those water entities were sort of amalgamated, not completely, but then it was taken away from councils. There's now a state legislation that forces an entity to participation agreement between Moreton Bay Regional Council and the Sunshine Coast. Effectively, what's your view on that? And ultimately, are you an advocate for the water utilities to come back to council?
Yeah, sure. Look, at the end of the day, when the bill comes into your letterbox, I don't care who the bill has come from. I don't care what logo or company is written at the top of it. I care about the price at the bottom of the bill and making that as cheap as possible. What company sends it, whether it's from council itself or another I mean, if we're going to form another company, can we call it Cheaper Water, and can that send out the bill, please? The price of water is the issue, not who's providing it. It's the price of it, simple as that.
Okay, so if the price is the issue, and should you be elected, what things in your view will pull that price down?
I think that the profit being made by council needs to be looked at. Look, and there's three places this water's coming from. It's the distribution of the water from Link Water. I'm sure they're making so
you're talking about the bulk water charges, the state government selling water to the retail entity. Yep.
I think the biggest changes that will happen in the future with water will be happening at a state level because of the change of government and some of the pledges made along the election process, that some of the positive changes that are yet to come won't even be done at a council level. So,
okay, so 4AUR 101.5 FM has looked at water and followed the story right since the inception of Unity Water. And in the investigations, one of the things that was found is that the large portion of the cost increase was due to the retail side of it and not the bulk water side of it. So that would mean that effectively the council can be directly responsible for those cost imposts. What would you change to bring those costs down?
If council can control the price that Unity Water set for water, it would certainly have my vote to bring down the cost.
And so if council could possibly, through some legislative avenue, bear in mind the new LNP government has said that they will return water assets back to council.
Yep.
Then will you definitely advocate to jump in there and make those changes?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever needs to happen to make water cheaper, I will do.
Unity Water has a board, and it doesn't have any representation from either the Sunshine Coast Council or the Moreton Bay Regional Council at this point in time. The board of directors is headed by Jim Sawley. Should that board even be there?
They referred to it as an independent board. If that's what it truly is, that's great. However, if the two stakeholders are the two councils and they can have a position on the board, it does strike me as odd that they don't currently have one of the members on the board. I'm not sure why they've gone down that path.
When you look at the remuneration of the board, and you got Jim Sawley there as an example, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is that a good investment for the ultimately the ratepayer and the water user?
Yeah, you're probably asking the wrong person there. I sit on numerous boards for things around the area, and I don't get paid a single dollar for it, so I probably shouldn't answer that one.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on to Darrell Main. What issues are you seeing out there, and how long have you been campaigning for?
Oh, I suppose campaigning is the same thing as Adam has said. You live in the community, you get involved in your community. I might not be up there going to all the networking meetings and what have you, but I get around my street, I get around my neighbourhood, I get around the general community. Certainly the issues have already been mentioned, and I think that's quite clear. Ultimately, drainage is a major issue, and it's a major issue for a large part of Division 2 because it takes in most of the coastal area from Beachmere down to Deception Bay. There's other areas that have problems, but certainly that's a major issue. One of the things that have happened over time is that developments happen, and yes, they look at basic hydrology, but forget that you can measure the catchment of what would normally rainfall in an area and say you've got to keep that within that area. However, they don't look at the simple facts of you pull out all of the trees and everything else. Well, you don't have that water diversification as it falls and flows through, which slows down the flooding processes. Certainly now, Bribie Island Road, Beachmere Road, is flooding a lot more regularly than it used to. I've been around for 13, going on 14 years now, and certainly we used to have events that come up and it go down, but now they're longer, they're higher, and they're more frequent, even though we hadn't had rain for a long period of time.
So what are some of the practical things that you would do to fix this?
What you need to do is take an assessment as a whole. You need to stop, you need to look at it. It's no good fixing your drainage problem and causing another one for someone else. That seems to be what's happened, and there's a lot of people where levee banks have been built, etc., that has just shifted the problem a little bit further down the road. You need to stop and take a look across the whole region, and that crosses divisions. You can't take a division-only position on it. Then you need to look and apply some of the common sense stuff that's been recommended by the Flood Commission about, and they've said quite specifically.
Have you read the findings that have been handed down?
I have. It's very weighty.
Okay, what are some of the things out of there
some
that
of the
haven't been
things that
implemented
they've
and need
said,
to be?
Some of the things that they've said continuously is, and they've always prefaced it, where the funds are available. Councils should look at hydrology in a bigger thing. They should get more localised flood mapping and use that more productively when assessing applications. They need to look at the broader area and floodplain management, and all of those things is what we need to do. We need to tie that in, and we need to tie it in with sensible development. The other issues, of course, are just the rejuvenation. I mean, people going on about the CBD, but let me say there is an issue. A lot of our older suburbs and neighbourhoods, both in public, private and commercial settings, really need a rejuvenation. I think someone said it before. So if you actually liven up a city, it gives people greater pride in it.
So Darrell, you're talking about an older estate. One of the areas that you have is Deception Bay. Some of those areas have been around for quite a period of time. Are you talking about actually going in, just for example, into a part of Deception Bay and rejuvenating it?
What you need to do is work with the community, the business in the area, and council itself, and get in and help. Community development is my background, and I've seen it work. You can, in fact, do a lot of these things with very little real cost.
What things can you do? Do we end up with just a talk fest and everybody feels good, or are you talking about physical things?
You can do physical things. It's just like Clean Up Australia. It started solely as an idea, and it got swamped. It picked up, and it's an annual thing.
So what are some of these physical things that you would do?
You could get people together and help each other. I've got a bit of paint in my back shed that's been sitting there. It's still good. next door neighbour's fence needs to tidy up. I can get together and do that. We can do that.
So you're talking about Moreton Bay Regional Council in the future facilitating the maintenance of people's homes.
Facilitating is right. That's right.
People's homes. You actually want them to help out with maintenance of people's homes.
No, I'm not saying, careful how you put it. What I'm saying is that we facilitate, we provide the opportunity for people to get together, to talk and to come together as a neighbourhood. So yes, that's what we do. And I can do that as a council. One of the commitments I've made is to hold regular community clinics throughout the division. So that I envisage will be at a local neighbourhood hall, community centre, whatever, whether it's in the park on a Saturday or Sunday with a sausage sizzle.
Are you talking about just a councillor doing that, or are you actually effectively talking about putting staff and...
Council can help, and it can help within
what would
its
you create a
boundary.
Department to do this?
Well, we have a community services department in council.
Yeah, what
that exists. Well, that's a good question. Because it probably hasn't been a priority. It's the same with sporting fields and development of those things. It's okay to say, here's my pet project. One of the things is I support Little A's, and if it's going to be anywhere down the Bay's good.
Little A's, Little Athletics,
yep.
For
but I had all daughters, so I support netball as well. There's a number of sporting organisations within the council area, and all of them deserve world-class facilities. You can't do that all, but you can work to find priorities, and everyone should have a chance.
You're listening to 4AUR 101.5 FM. We're going to head off to a break and come straight back. That's right, for local business, you're listening to 4AUR 101.5 FM. It's the Morning Magazine. Look, if you've been tuned in for the last hour, you would well and truly know that we are looking in great detail at the area of Division 2 for the Moreton Bay Regional Council as we approach the elections on the 28th of April, is where you have your democratic right to have your say as to who's going to represent you. Well, we're headed towards the top of the hour, so that means it's time to fairly well wrap it up. We'll start with Ron Anderson. 4-year terms for Moreton Bay Regional Council. If you're successfully elected and you got through to that term, you're putting your hand up against, how would you measure that your last term that you've just done was successful?
Well, you'd measure that by the amount of people that are going to vote you back in again. I mean, if you do nothing, you're not going to get votes.
So it's on popularity?
It's on popularity, mate. Popularity and your efforts that you put in. I believe that this job is 24/7. It's probably underpaid for what you're going to do. And anyone that's putting
so you're up for pay increases. You're going to put your hand up for that?
I'm not putting my pay increases.
Upgraded the car?
In 1990, I was on a $100,000 package deal, and since then I've probably earned more than that. Now I'm taking a lesser paid job because I've got something to give back to the community. I believe that I have a sincere sense of business knowledge and basics that I can give to the community, and that's why I'm running, and that's why now I believe I've got something to give back, and I've got the time to give it back because all my children have grown up.
With all of that knowledge, and having said that, look, your measurement of success is getting out the other end and getting the most votes or an increased vote, or getting voted back in. There's no issues that you consider that you really want to take to council that may not be popular politically and publicly, but you think are the right thing to do that you would measure your success on?
Well, I'm working for the community, and I get paid by the community. That's been my motto, and that's one thing that really irks me at the current time. Everyone that's in the council at the moment, whether you've been an employee or a councillor, the community's paying your wages. You're supposed to be working for them. So if most of the community, if 60% of them want something done or want an issue fixed, then you must push to get that issue done. And there's one thing that you can't see at the moment in the council. You can't see how hard your councillor's working for you. You don't know if he's going to that meeting and fighting for you. That's why I'd like to see it live so that people can actually see that he's belting his head up against a brick wall. See what effort he's putting in, and let everyone have a look at what effort's getting put in.
When you, should you be elected, do you consider yourself as being a very independent councillor or joining a team?
I don't have a problem being a team player. In a lot of management schemes that I've worked in the past 15, 18 years, I've had to work as a team and help everyone out. But I am independent. I have my own opinion as well as my division's opinion to take forward.
So your division very strongly gives you a message and they want you to go a particular way. The team wants to go another way. Do you vote with them or against them?
I would vote with my division. The division is who put me there, and I'm very passionate about Division 2. And some people say too passionate, but can you be too passionate?
Darrell Main, how would you measure your success coming out the other end of the term should you be elected?
I think success would have to be measured by at least a start in seriously addressing the fundamental issues that are out there. That includes the drainage, that includes the general services costs, that includes regular and routine maintenance, addressing footpath roads and those things, so that there's some improvement. If I can't see that I've actually started to move that forward and achieve something, then I won't stand again. But I'm sure that I can do that, and that will need a team effort.
So you're effectively saying that if you feel that you've failed approaching the next election, you'd concede, walk away, and not put it to the people to make that decision for you?
And I'd apologise to the people because I had failed. I mean, what's the point? It's not about self-interest. It's about actually achieving something. Now, as I said, work towards. We need to be able to. These things can't happen overnight. But if you could see solid progress, you should be able to see that in 4 years. 4 years. Almost double what an average state government runs for.
Darrell, you're putting your hand up for Division 2. You're in the council meetings. There's 12 other councillors and a mayor. Are you a part of the team, or are you an independent that represents Division 2?
Well, you're both. That is one of the jobs. I mean, you can't be silly about it. There is decisions that you need to make as a council as a whole, and there are decisions that you'll certainly, as Ron said, you'll push your division's ideas. But I won't be afraid to go back and to talk to my residents and say, this is the decision that's coming up. What are your views? And if I make a decision, this is what I've decided and why I've decided it.
So if your division's views are overwhelmingly a particular way, which is out of sorts with the rest of the team, as far as the councillors go, which way would you vote, for your division or for the team?
I obviously would vote for the division, because if it's overwhelmingly, then there would be a good reason for it. And obviously the others are making a stupid decision.
Peter Flannery, how will you measure your success throughout the term?
Probably similar lines. If you get re-elected again, that's a good indication you're doing a good job. But I think the process from...
So you're effectively saying that you would put it to the people regardless of how you felt you went?
Yeah, definitely. I think the process, once you're elected, you work from day one to serve the community, and if you're doing a good job, then the process of being re-elected starts from that day one. Also, the feel in the community, at the moment there's a lot of angst and upheaval, I suppose, in the community, you would say, with the service that council's providing. So being involved with a lot of community groups, that you'll get that sense that the satisfaction's coming back into the community and back into the residents. And sometimes you have to make those hard decisions that aren't popular. I've done that in the past, and a lot of the work that you make, or some of the decisions, the results of the decisions you make, may not be seen by the people. It might be about underground stuff. It might be processes or laws or whatever in place that people can't see an actual physical structure there, and can't judge you on that. But it's communicating with the community and letting them know what's happening, what you're doing. If it's an unpopular decision, then I try and explain to them the thought process I go through in coming to that decision, and hopefully that regional people will see the same solution that I saw.
You've been elected, you're a councillor, there's 12 other councillors, there's a mayor. Do you vote as a block? Are you a part of the team, or you're representing your division?
The vision comes first. As before, I've stood on my haunches and stood my ground on what the people in the community wanted.
How did that go for you?
Actually ended up, surprisingly, that the other councillors came around supporting me. So it's something it takes a great lot of time and great effort to go through the whole process and really go through the issues and say, well, this is what's best for my people. That's what they're telling me. Councillors might have a different opinion. They'll try and sway around to their opinions and influence your way you're going to vote. And it's a very stressful process you go through at times, but in the end of the day, as long as I can go to sleep at night happy that I'm representing the people that put me there to do their job, that's the main thing that counts.
Adam Leishman, how would you measure your success in your first term?
Quite simply, I hope by the end of the first term that the price of water's cheaper. I hope that we have a fairer rating system in place. I would hope that better road maintenance is taking place. I would like to see an accelerated drain maintenance program in place. They would be some of the first indications that I'd measure, success by.
You just mentioned that you would measure one of your successes on a fairer rating system. That's fairly broad. What is a fairer rating system?
Yeah, look, and that's a big answer, but in a nutshell,
You've got 30 seconds.
Yeah. Look, certainly the discrepancies between some of the discounts for pensioners around the area are different in the areas. Even the different level of pensioner discount is also different. These people that are on these low fixed incomes do not feel that it's fair at the moment, and I'd like to see some of those concerns addressed.
So would you say that, in your view, being fairer would actually reduce revenue to council?
From that avenue, yes, it would.
Okay, and there's other avenues that you can pick it up?
Look, absolutely. But, I mean, when we're talking about, people on the pension that are now having trouble paying their rates and their water, we need to help them. That's simple.
When you go into council, you're one of 12 councillors and a mayor. Who are you representing, Division 2, or do you become a part of the team as far as the councillors and mayor go?
Look, neither, actually. We're elected...
You're your own man, just doing your own thing, yep.
We're elected by the division, but we have a duty of responsibility to the community at Broad, the whole Moreton Bay region. The way I would vote is how I would feel that the community that the decision is going to affect wants me to vote.
So you're looking at, you've got an issue that's right across the Moreton Bay region. It's going to affect them. The rest of the region really wants a positive yes vote for this particular issue, but your area is saying to you loud and clear, absolutely no way, we're not happy with it. Let's just say it's a piece of infrastructure going in somewhere, and it's going to cost the ratepayers a lot of money. It's going to benefit probably most of the other region. Division 2 goes, absolutely no way in the wide world. Which way would you vote?
I have no idea. It would have to come down to what it is, and why the people of Division 2 didn't want it. Without a specific, that's a hard one to answer.
Okay, very, very quickly, we're starting to run out of time. If anybody wants to know more about you, how do they get in contact with you?
AdamLeishman.com.au or 1800 155 392. Call me for free.
Gee, I'm glad you didn't pull out a 0055 number there. Okay, Darrell, Main, quickly, if people want to know more about you, how do they get in contact with you?
They can email me at darrell.main@bigpond.com or 0438 621 612.
Ron Anderson?
Yeah, ronanderson.com.au or 0439 03 883.
Peter Flannery?
It's Peter Flannery at live.com.au or 0439 678970.
You're listening to 4AUR 101.5 FM. It's the Morning Magazine. We have taken a detailed look at Division 2. We hope that that's helped you with forming your decision as you go into the ballot, and that will be on April 28th. You get to have your democratic right exercised and decide who is going to represent you. You might have some feedback on this morning. You may have some ideas. You might have something else that we want to bring up at some point in time. You can do that a number of ways. Give us a call on 54951015. Jump onto the website www.1015fm.com.au, or if you're that way inclined, email radio@1015fm.com.au.